Now, Masimanyane Women's Rights International Organization holds Women's Day intervention focusing on gender-based violence. The center plays a vital role in assisting victims of abuse, especially in the rural areas. They have also created safe homes for victims of abuse in the area. The organization, led by Dr Lesley-Anne Forster, who is also the member of the Presidential Advisory Committee on GBV. Let's go to Yanga Fanani to tell us more about this. Yanga, a very good morning to you. What can you tell us about where you are?
A very good morning to you, Desiree. You are coming to us live indeed in East London at the Masimanyane Women's Support Center. The center has over the years played a critical role in terms of rehabilitating victims of abuse, of gender-based violence abuse. In the past year or so, it has dealt with 10,000 cases of gender-based violence. You know that the Eastern Cape is one of those areas where such cases are prevalent. They'll be having a dialogue this morning with women from all sectors of society as to try to find solutions for this scourge. Joining us now, we have the director of the center, Dr Lesley-Anne Forster. Ma'am, a very good morning to you, and thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. Good morning, everyone.
Ma'am, this is a global pandemic upon a global pandemic.
Yes.
Figures are alarming. At least 1 in 2 women across the country has dealt with some form of sexual harassment.
Yes.
What do you make of those figures?
Well, the figures are extremely high. We've had a pandemic of gender-based violence and femicide in our country for a few years now. And we have been engaging at different levels, trying to, interrogate what is causing the violence and how to overcome it. What we've done well in the country is got really good political support now from the president. He held a national summit. We have a declaration on violence against women, and we have a national strategic plan. Now, the national strategic plan is aimed very strongly at ensuring that we have a comprehensive and what we call an all-society approach. Before it was saying women must protect themselves, that was the approach. Then it was we must talk to men about how they, behaving towards women. And those conversations have to come together. But we're saying all sectors of society, meaning government takes responsibility, civil society takes responsibility, the religious sector, the traditional, the House of Traditional Leaders. We talk about, all of the different institutions coming together to address this issue. It's the only way we're going to overcome it. What we really need is to address the prevention side of it. This is the big area where we have fallen short. We took a victim empowerment approach, which means that we were looking after how survivors are treated after they've been abused. Now we're saying we want to stop it before it actually and this has been a global thing. The way the movement started was around providing shelter, and then looking at counseling and, all kinds of things. But we've evolved over the last 2 decades to realize that prevention is critical. But there are other things. There are things like accountability. There are things like leadership, that is really, really important to end impunity within our society and within the country. At the moment, the political will is there, the political support is there, and then we fall short on leadership and accountability when we try to implement programs. And having been on the Presidential Council, we've recognized the gaps, and we're trying to look now at saying how do we address, and this National Strategic Plan looks at addressing the actual gaps.
Okay, ma'am, you speak about breaking the silos, the long and short of it. You still see the OR Tambo region, for instance, having most of these cases. Meanwhile, the conviction rate is not that high. Are the courts failing us?
I think many of the systems are falling short. Okay, so what we're looking at there is the criminal justice system. It's the actual investigation of cases, it's the arrest of perpetrators, it's actually going. So there's a whole chain that we have to look at to see where and how that is falling short. This is all linked to a bigger issue, and that's the issue of women's status in society. It is how we view women's lives. Do we put a value to women's lives? There's a famous African gynecologist who says that women are dying not because of disease and poverty, but because society has yet to believe that their lives matter. And the Black Lives Matter movement is making that very strong in America. Here we're still struggling to get society to agree that women's lives matter. And that political commitment to advancing gender equality is there but falls short again on the actual implementation. And the leadership is sporadic, it's ad hoc, and as we move down, the different strata to the local level, then you see it falls apart to a great degree. We have many successes, so it's not a doom and gloom story, but the fact that women are still being raped at such a high rate, the fact that women are dying at a high rate is a problem. And that's what we have to look at the root drivers, the causes of gender-based violence and address that comprehensively to be able to overcome the problem.
Okay. We've had a lot of summits, gender-based violence summits, but the culture of keeping silent while being abused still prevails, especially in rural areas. It has been deeply entrenched there.
Yeah.
How will such a conversation break that mentality?
Well, like we're saying, we've got different pillars in the National Strategic Plan. We've identified those 6 pillars as being the way in which to go. So the first pillar is around accountability and leadership. We've got to have the political will at all levels of society to address the issue. Then all institutions need to adopt that and then make that work in their particular spaces. The second one is looking at laws and policies. Now, there have been 3 laws that have been amended during this month. That's going to go some way to change what's happening. Now, you can't legislate for change. It's a culture and a mindset that has to change. So for that, we have a prevention strategy. Prevention strategy works on attitudes and behaviors and looks at again, a whole society approach. It's not just awareness raising, it's much deeper than that. And it's looking at what is it we actually need to do to prevent. Education is key. Economic empowerment is key. There are different aspects that we have to look at. We have a rapid response or an emergency response pillar, which looks at how do we quickly address a problem as it arises, So that's the response care and support unit where our victim empowerment programs would fall under. The other pillar is on research. And I am missing one, I can't remember what that is, but there's 6 of them altogether. So those are the pillars that we believe now will give us a better way of addressing gender-based violence. Because when we start those programs and we run it throughout the country, people are going to start doing things differently. So that, together with the whole issue of building women's agency, of trying to raise the status of women, will make a change. It's not a quick thing. It's not an event. This is a very complex issue. It's a complex issue that has been around for a long time. But now, if we work at it from this multi-sectoral, multi-pronged approach, we have a better chance of changing that.
Okay. Thanks a lot for your time, ma'am.
Thank you for having me.
That's, of course, the leader of the Masimanyane Women's Support Center in East London, Dr Lesley-Anne Forster, telling us about the programs they have embarked on in terms of trying to curb the spread of gender-based violence. She tells us that it will need a change in mentality, especially at societal level, and forged partnerships from all sectors of society. From us here in East London, it's back to you in studio.
Yanga, while we have you, Masimanyane is usually associated to the Methodist Church. Are the services they're offering specifically catered for Methodist Church members, or is it all society members, all members of society?
Well, they are catering for all sectors of community, not only church-based. It's not only a church-based structure. It deals with a variety of people, from women who are not churchgoers to people who are religious. Remember, this is a sketch which has no really discretion whether a person goes to church or not. So they do focus on every women who might be a victim of women abuse or gender-based violence.
Thank you so much for that update, Yanga Funani there.